Project Playtime came out with a bang and showcased us a new monster in Boxyboo, this weird, fleshy, fuzzy, jack-in-the-box creature. And frankly, I love him. I love playing as him, I love playing against him, the leap is really fun and can really catch you by surprise. But regardless, as fun as he is and as scary as he is in the cinematic trailer, by the way, major props for that cinematic trailer, they made these monsters look terrifying in there. The big question comes in. There are currently 3 known chapters of Poppy Playtime, and we know the first 2 have the antagonist of Huggy Wuggy and Mommy Longlegs. There's also 3 known monsters in Project Playtime: Huggy Wuggy, Mommy Longlegs, and Boxyboo. Does this mean Boxyboo is the antagonist of Chapter 3? Well, that's what we're going to find out today. So slices, put on your aprons, and let's bake ourselves a theory. And you know, the audio quality is a little weird in the basement today. I think I know why. Because we're not in the basement anymore, baby. You've seen it and heard it here first, folks. My wife, our baby, and I have officially moved into our own apartment, and I have a real office. My wife's computer is there, her crafting stuff is over there, and it's gonna be over there. There's a ladder because we just painted. I just want to, again, thank you all so much. It's this channel that's allowed us to move out and get our own place, and I just can't wait for what the future has in store for all of us. Anyway, back to the theory. First, let's gather our ingredients. What exactly is a Boxyboo? Well, looking at this monster select screen, we can see that Boxyboo wasn't actually intended to be created at all. Instead, he's the result of several failed experiments based on an already pre-existing toy made at the factory. Experiments for what is known as the Bigger Bodies Initiative, or BBI. Essentially, in a crisis between paying the bills of the factory and paying its workers, a figure known as the Doctor suggests to make giant toys to replace the workers. That way they wouldn't have to pay for labor, and they could make more money showing off these giant toys. We learned this from one of the VHSs from Project Playtime. Honestly, there's a lot of lore in Project Playtime that I'm not going to have time to go into today. We see the prototype puppeteering Mommy Longlegs. We hear a voice that's presumably the prototype instructing us to feed the others and that we're stopping them from making more of us, essentially protecting the giant toys. But I don't want to overstep on the great work that's already been done on Reddit and on Game Theory theorizing about what Project Playtime specifically is trying to tell us. I more so want to focus on what the lore presented in Project Playtime can tell us about Chapter 3 of Poppy Playtime, and the rest of the main game itself, since it takes place several years after Project Playtime. So what other important information can we glean from this game? Well, a lot actually. First, we get the location of the theater. There are 2 Project playable maps in the game. The first, the factory, seems fairly familiar. This is just your standard toy factory that we play all of Chapter 1 and most of Chapter 2 within. But the second map, the theater, is brand new. We've never seen this part of the facility yet. It's likely in the base game for Project Playtime just to showcase to the public that Mob Games isn't just going to reuse assets, they're making new things for this second game. However, that being said, I do think it's incredibly likely that the maps that we're going to see in Project Playtime will inherently pair with an antagonist within the game. For example, we have the Toy Factory and we have Huggy Wuggy. We can pretty much take these 2 as a package deal. When we're going through the main Toy Factory, we're also encountering Huggy Wuggy. Well, now what about the other characters? Do they have a pair? Not really. I could certainly see a map based on the game station from Chapter 2 to eventually pair with Mommy Longlegs. If that's the case, does that mean that the theater map goes with Boxyboo? I mean, it does play music, so it kind of fits there. But before we get ahead of ourselves, what else can we pull from this game? Well, the fact that the prototype seems to be the caretaker of the toys. In Chapter 2, Mommy Longlegs seems terrified that the prototype would even approach her or even make her a part of him. So something changed between Project Playtime and Poppy Playtime. In Project Playtime, the prototype essentially seems to be the main caretaker of all these toys, and they do whatever it says. But in Poppy Playtime, the one sapient toy we've come across is terrified of him. Something important happened here. Man, I'm getting hungry in here. This mold is really starting to get old. If only there was one of those. Oh, one of those sponsor things. Maybe that'll give me some food. All right. Today's video is sponsored by Morgan & Morgan Injury Law Firm. How much is your health worth to you? What if you had an injury that stopped you from doing something you love? A hand injury that forbids you from playing video games even?
If you've been injured, you have the right to ask for fair compensation. I hear you. Well, it was probably just an accident. No, there are no accidents. If you've been hurt, it's due to negligence. And as far as the type of injury, well, Morgan & Morgan can help with it. They have over 800 expert lawyers to fit plenty of different types of cases. In fact, they're America's biggest injury law firm. Now, I hear you. This sounds great, so it must be expensive, right? No. In fact, you don't pay anything unless you win, and you don't pay any upfront costs. Their fee is free. So if you're interested, go ahead and click the link in the description to check out Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Thanks again to Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring today's video. Morgan & Morgan, for the people. Whew, that was a lot of Morgans, but it was worth it for this. I hope I have somewhere to sit down to eat this at.
Alright, so that's all the pertinent ingredients I can think of. So let's start mixing them and see what kind of theories start to form. Straight away, I don't think Boxyboo is going to be the main antagonist of Chapter 3. While it does make sense that he would be, seeing as this is the perfect way to advertise the upcoming chapter, we already know where Chapter 3 is taking place. The Playcare. At the end of Chapter 2, we wake up and see a sign pointing towards the Playcare. And then in the Chapter 3 teaser trailer, we hear a monologue all about the Playcare from Ludwig. No, not that Ludwig. No, not Elliot. No, Elliot Ludwig, the CEO of Playtime Co. And he explains that Playcare is an in-house orphanage. So it's nearly confirmed that Chapter 3 is going to take place in the Playcare. But if that's the case, why would Boxyboo be there? From the evidence and speculation we have, Boxy would more so belong in the theater, a place that was initially created to entertain children. So why wouldn't it be filled with musical boxes that you can play with? Furthermore, the Chapter 3 teaser trailer shows us a gas mask centered, very importantly, and surrounded by gas. But we know what Boxyboo can do according to Project Playtime, and none of that has to do with gas. He can just spring at you and presumably hide pretty well. But if we go back to my last Chapter 3 theory, it still seems incredibly likely that Daisy is our best currently known toy that could have gas abilities candidate. Well, honestly, with the addition of Boxyboo, I think it's most likely that Chapter 3 will just have a brand new toy we haven't seen before as the antagonist. But regardless, I don't think it's Boxy. It's gotta be one of those two other options. Well, then if that's the case, where would Boxy show up? I think Chapter 4. Because I think the key here is that the orphanage and the theater were built with good intentions. We can speculate this from the mountain of evidence we have that Elliot Ludwig was genuinely trying to help children. He wants to bring smiles to their faces in any way he can. He's the one good guy in this story that we know of for sure. The pages we see in Chapter 2 detailing children tests all date after Ludwig presumably dies or leaves the company. The timeline seems to be that the Playcare orphanage and theater were built during Elliot Ludwig's running of the company, and that they were built with good intentions, specifically to help children. But then at some point after Elliot Ludwig died or left the company, the doctor or some other figure begins to conduct experiments on children. So it seems likely that the deeper we get into the Playtime facility, the closer we get to the real truth behind all of it. Well, have fun in the factory. Including the newer additions to the factory, namely, the lab. I still think a 5-chapter structure makes the most sense for this game, and if we start in the factory, then move into the game station, and presumably go to the Playcare in Chapter 3, then I think the chapters onward would be the theater and then the lab. We'd go through the same path that so many children test subjects were subjected to. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So let's pop our mixture into the oven and see what kind of horrors rise. Poppy Playtime in its entirety is going to tell the story of the player character, a closely linked character to Playtime who was never officially an employee. Heir to the company, Elliot Ludwig's second child. Yes, it's likely that Poppy is possessed by Elliot Ludwig's late daughter, because in this newspaper clipping we know that there was a death in the family. But it's never specified how many children he had. If the woman who possessed Poppy was well into her 30s, judging by the fact that Elliot Ludwig's wife left him at 1930 and there was a death sometime in 1960, Poppy's soul would have been around 30. And if that's the case, who's to say Elliot Ludwig never had any other children? Someone who would resent the factory that took their father away from their mother, as we hear about in the newspaper. Someone who would resent the factory for taking their sister away from the land of the living. Someone who could have taken over after Elliot Ludwig's death and prevented all of this, but unknowingly allowed the Doctor to take over instead. The director behind the Bigger Bodies initiative. Eventually, someone is able to contact you. The only person who would think to, your late father, Elliot Ludwig. Now, the prototype. What if I baby you? Baby. He needs you to come and end all of this. So you go, trying to find answers for yourself and your father's fallen factory. You push through the factory itself in Chapter 1, ending the monstrosity of Huggy Wuggy. You outwit Mommy Longlegs in the game station, ending her as well. Next up in Chapter 3, you enter the Playcare, a once warm home to orphans turned into a testing ground for the Doctor. The center of it, a large daisy machine that spews out poppy gas to begin testing. Now trying to sedate you. You push past further into Chapter 4, the theater. This place was once meant to delight the residents of the factory, but it was at one point changed by the Doctor to be a final stopping point for soon-to-be tested patients. What location better than a theater to turn into a brainwashing area? A stop to make children more obedient before turned into toy soldiers. In it, a remembrance of this failed process. Boxyboo is wandering these halls, hiding amongst other identical music boxes. Finally, one step further, you arrive at the deepest part of Playtime Co., the laboratory. The place where the Doctor conducted the Bigger Bodies initiative. You find the prototype. Once a protector of the toys, helmed by Elliot Ludwig, has been fully taken over by the Doctor or what's left of him. And the Doctor has used this creation to do what he does best, make toy monstrosities. We see an amalgamation of the creatures we've faced up until now. The strength of Huggy, the agility of Mommy, the gas and blades of Daisy, the speed and stealth of Boxy, all controlled by the intelligence of an evil mastermind. You and Poppy work together to destroy it, and in doing so, destroy the entire factory from within. Strangely, you don't attempt to escape, as you, Poppy, and the whole factory collapses, once and for all, closing the book on Playtime Co. I feel really good about this, honestly. Excluding the high probability that it'll just be a brand new monster for Chapter 3, I think Daisy, then Boxyboo, then the prototype is currently our best guess as to the order of antagonists. But let me know what you think in the comments. And if you want to know more about what I specifically think will happen in Chapter 3, go ahead and click that video in the cards and it'll be at the end for the analysis there. Now, I know some of you are wondering, hey, wasn't the charity livestream supposed to be on the 1st of January? Well, if you can't hear, I'm actually one day after getting over the flu. It is currently 12:30 a.m. January 6th, the day I'm supposed to upload this video. I'm going to be pulling an all-nighter to edit the video. I couldn't record all week because I still had the flu I had during the charity live stream. Now, my wife has the flu. It's been a terrible couple weeks. I had the flu while moving, essentially. So carrying heavy boxes while also dying from the flu, not a fun combination. But because I was really sick and under the weather, we couldn't do the charity live stream. Now, I can't do it this weekend because I'll be taking care of Luca full time without any help from Amanda because she is also sick with the flu. But currently we're looking towards January 14th, preferably a Saturday or a Sunday. Not 100% sure. I will announce on here on YouTube community tabs and on Twitter, so go follow me there, when we know for sure the new date. Sorry I had to reschedule it. I was super under the weather and there's gonna be a lot of reading. My throat was all crap. I'm sure you understand. But the charity live stream will still be happening. We'll be reading the books on stream. Keep your eyes open for it. In the meantime, a big shout out to the best patrons, the Toasted Slices, Emberisk, Zenith, Raven Eris, Charlie Bean, Lovey Puppy, Stormachow, Just BKZ, Chickpea, Lola Fembo, The Viper 26, Leon, and 4 Un 1 Heart. And until next time, as always, stay toasty, Slices.